Radio.
It's Wednesday, time for Rock Solid Sports.
Pitch hit high in the air into left field, and that ball is gone. George Beck has given Tennessee the lead. Christian Scott, the leap at the fence. He robs a home run.
Sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Ben Joyce kicks and delivers. Strike three.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
All right, everyone. Welcome into Rock Solid Sports. It is Wednesday night. I'm your host, Chloe. As you can hear in the back, I'm at Fieldhouse Social, our sponsor for Wednesday night show. Sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way. We thank them for their support. American craft food, beer, and cocktails. A 21-foot digital big screen TV indoors that you can see right behind me, and plenty more TVs throughout the restaurant, and a back patio open at 11 a.m. Mondays through Sundays. They are closed on Mondays. They're open back again on Tuesdays. And I have here with me back in the studio producing Jace, and I have on StreamYard Devin. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing well over here. I was able to call a high school basketball game earlier, so that was a lot of fun. Voice is going to be a little raspy, but got to keep the vocal cords a little bit warm for tomorrow because I got some more going tomorrow.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, working with the Stonecom guys. Those guys are fantastic. Obviously love doing the high school football season with them over in Cookeville. But yeah, what teams did you call for, Jace? Because now I know some of those schools a little bit better now.
Today, I did a Christmas tournament out in Lenoir City. I got to watch Upperman play against Kingston or Roane County. They go by two different names, but the jersey says Kingston, so I said Kingston for the most part. And it went to OT today, so that was a lot of fun too.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. That's really exciting for sure. We are glad to have you guys here. Of course, it's still kind of that awkward time in between semesters when it's just after Christmas. Hope you all had great Christmases, by the way. And we're heading into New Year's soon. Speaking of New Year's, my little segue here, that New Year's Day, the Vols will be playing versus Iowa. I wanted to start off the show with some news. I think we might know where this is going. Joe Milton is going to the NFL draft, so he will sit this one out on January 1st, and Nico Iamaleava will be the starting quarterback down in Orlando. I'm going there. I couldn't remember the name of the town. Down in Orlando on New Year's Day. How do we feel about this? Did we expect Joe to go to the draft? He's a senior. We obviously all know that. We know Nico is, most likely starting next year. How are we feeling about this?
I'm not too surprised that he did opt out. It was kind of weird that he waited so late to opt out. I would have thought that we would have seen this a couple weeks ago. Right following up that Vandy game, maybe a week or so after that. We've kind of been lingering on that for a minute, whether we're going to see him go out there and maybe Nico come in to maybe pass the torch kind of after a few series. But it seems like, passing of the torch happened today over Christmas break. So it's really exciting to see Nico come in and take the helm of this offense. It should be a lot of fun to watch. But it's a little sad because, Joe Milton was a big part of this team for the last few years, a big locker room guy that, has seen the ups and downs, got benched, got his spot back after the injury, of course, and did decent. I thought he did all right. So I think missing that locker room presence is going to be big. But yeah, farewell to Joe Milton. Best of wishes for the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Devin? I'm afraid Devin is frozen. I'll go. Joe Milton definitely, like you said, had his ups and downs here at UT. But I was someone here who, me personally, I could never I could definitely criticize Joe, and there are definitely times when that was necessary. But I could never just go all in like some people on this show with Joe, just because I don't know, something about it, special place in my heart. He would always, have some not so good of a game, and then he would come back and have a game like he did, like let's say first half of Alabama. That was just, it was just awesome. He would have those moments. So it was like, I just couldn't completely go all in on him, like against him, not for him. But
Oh yeah, can you
it
guys
was
hear me now? Sorry, I think
yes,
I
we can
lost
hear you
connection.
now. But
Okay, yeah,
I'll finish my thoughts. It was yeah, definitely super exciting time that he had here at Tennessee. I think he definitely had a good, leadership role as well. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous to see what Nico can do, but I'm excited as well. So, Devin, go ahead.
yeah. No, that's a great point. Nervously, cautiously optimistic though. I mean, Nico's coming in with a huge amount of hype, and I can't wait to see it. Actually, I'm very excited for it because if he turns out to be an amazing player, Chloe, I know you're going to Orlando. My girlfriend Allison and I, we're going to go to Orlando as well, and we're going to be able to see his first career start. Just think about how cool that is. If he ends up being this amazing player, which I really think he can be, I think he's a really special talent. That we saw it first. We were the first ones to see it, but it is a little bit nerve wracking because Iowa has an elite defense. We can make all the jokes we want about their offense because, wow, it is bad. But that defense is legit. The defensive coordinator for Iowa won the top assistant of the year. So it's going to be a really tough defense to start as your first career start. I mean, that's one of the toughest first career starts you could have. And they're going to be missing some key players too. They have opt-outs as well, but it's going to be really, really tough challenge for your first career start to be against this vaunted of a defense. I still think Tennessee is going to lean on their defense and end up coming away with a win here, but it's going to be close. It's going to be a tough physical battle for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Iowa's defense, obviously, why they are ranked, why they had a decent season this year. So I guess it's just kind of questionable because we've seen them play good teams and get beaten really bad, of course, like Michigan and things like that. But then I feel like they've also had some games that have kind of proved their worth in the season as well. Jace, how are you feeling about just the overall matchup with Iowa?
Well, I mean, now with Nico at the helm, it really does throw a wrench into things because we've seen only glimpses of what we know of Nico. I mean, very limited playbook in his times. It's mainly consisted of him handing it off and throwing screen passes, which I mean that's most of our offense anyway, so it's not crazy. But we never really got to see him take a shot downfield. I'm really looking forward to maybe seeing a couple of those happen. Get to some of our older guys in the wide receiver core, like not Brew McCoy, Jesus, Ramel Keaton. See him get back in action for one final time. I think that'll be cool. But matchup wise, it is kind of tough. Again, a new quarterback in such a complex system against a top 5 defense in the country, pretty much. It's really going to be a tough test. And I mean, I think our defense can hold up against the weak, like Iowa offense, but our defense isn't new to letting bad offenses put up big numbers. So that's going to be the really intriguing thing on my part.
Yeah, and what I will say from the really lively arm, he throws these bullet passes with so much zip on the ball, just goes right in there. He can fit the ball into really tight windows, and that's going to be very key against this tough Iowa defense here. And hopefully, looking ahead, hopefully the weather ends up being pretty good. There's been some rain in Florida over the last few days and over several times recently. But I've looked ahead. It seems like the weather's going to be pretty decent for that day. So hopefully it stays that way because I think that could benefit Tennessee's team as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'll do one last question on this topic before we get into anything else. What do we see about Joe Milton's future? How do we think that Joe Milton will do if he does go to the NFL, and how will he do in the draft?
That is a grand question. I think it
Really?
could. I think it could happen, kind of like how Hendon was last year. Of course, like sixth-year guy. I mean, he's definitely not going to be a first-round pick by any means, just because of that. I mean, using a bunch of his like early years, where you see like Lamar Jackson, who's like 25 or 26, already has an MVP, is pretty much on like the best team in football right now, leading the charge for them. So seeing that difference in age is a little alarming, especially for prospects like him. Oh, I mean, of course, he's got the cannon of an arm, but the big thing is he going to be able to show out at the combine? I think he could definitely be a day two guy. Now, will he? I don't know. I think Hendon Hooker is a more intriguing prospect just because of the success that he's had. But Joe Milton, I think he's a good locker room pickup for sure. But I mean, realistically, I'd love for the guy to be a starter day one in the NFL. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not sure how long he'll be in the league, honestly, and I hate to say that.
I really think Milton's going to be either a second or third round guy. I think he's kind of end up maybe in a similar spot to where Will Levis ended up, because they're going to say a lot of the same things about him. Oh, he's big. He's got a strong arm. Yeah, he had some up and down success. We saw the same thing with Levis in college. But at the end of the day, the potential is all there. He's got the whole toolkit. And I think there is a team that is going to take a chance on him. One team that immediately comes to mind is probably the Seattle Seahawks. They need a new quarterback. Geno Smith is the temporary guy, and he's not the permanent guy. And Pete Carroll loves to take a chance on players that are very similar to this, where they've got all this
Devin, you're glitching again. Oh, wait.
Oh.
Okay, we got you back. I knew
Okay.
as soon as I spoke you were going to come back. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, well, it's probably all the people joining us here now. I see, so that's pretty fun. But yeah, I'll just finish up here. Yeah, I think I could see him going to the Seahawks. They could use a guy like him. Ultimately, I think the team is going to make a huge difference as to whether he has any success or not, as that's just kind of the way the quarterback position goes. If you end up on a team with a terrible offensive line, horrible coaches, guys constantly get fired. It's like 3 years down the line, you've been injured 20 times and your coach has been fired 4 times. You're not going to have a whole lot of success. Kind of what happened to, Mariota. I blame a lot of that on the Titans more so than him in his career. So you never know, but I think he could end up on a pretty decent team depending on where he falls.
I can see that as well. I like the Will Levis comparison for sure. I mean, that's ended up looking good for Will Levis recently until he got injured. But moving on to bowl games really quick. Bowl game going on right now. It's halftime. North Carolina and West Virginia in the Mayo Bowl. North Carolina is currently down 17-10, but this is a pretty good bowl game, I would say. Both these teams, we're getting into the good. Well, not that the early ones weren't exciting, but we're getting into the better known teams. Both of these teams 8-4. This obviously, looking at the bowl games before this game even started, you can predict that this was going to be a good matchup. Yeah, I mean, come the end of this game, who are we picking to win this one?
Is Drake May playing for Carolina? Do we
No.
know that right now?
No, he's not.
Okay, I think I'm going to ride with the Mountaineers because, I mean, North Carolina over like the last couple of seasons has mainly just been Drake May. And I mean, he's preparing to go, still arguably somehow in the round one, pick one type of category. So, I mean, without that kind of talent out there, and you throw West Virginia in the mix, who's had a bounce back year this year, 8-4, much better than we've seen over the last couple of seasons. I think the Mountaineers come out on top, and I can't even think of the head coach's name. He'll get a Mayo bath tonight.
Yeah, the head coach, Neil Brown for the Mountaineers. I really thought his job was in jeopardy this season, and he coached like it because I think he was very much on the hot seat. But they ended up doing surprisingly well, 8-4. I was very surprised by that. I thought they would have a losing record, and he would be gone. So they did very good. Garrett Green is playing well in this game at quarterback. North Carolina, they got a superstar running back in Amari and Hampton. And their backup, from what I was able to see, he hasn't been playing too bad. But at the end of the day, West Virginia is looking really good. They got a special teams touchdown. They had a 75-yard bomb on the first play of the game. It's really just these big plays. If North Carolina can find some way to limit that, they can easily get back in this game. But I think West Virginia's got the momentum right now, and I think they're going to ride that to a victory.
Oh, did we lose Chloe? Oh, maybe. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we got cooking in some bowl games this evening? Of course, we already saw Virginia Tech take down Tulane earlier today. One that I was kind of surprised about, especially after the last couple of seasons Tulane has had. But Virginia Tech really turning that around. What do you think of that one, Devin?
Well, what's fascinating about that game was Virginia Tech, believe it or not, even though Tulane almost has double the wins, Virginia Tech was actually an 11-point favorite heading into that game. So I was like, okay, clearly the guys in Vegas know something that a lot of people don't. And clearly that turned out to be the case. Not only did they win, they covered that spread. They won by 21 points. So ended up being a good bet. Virginia Tech, they've definitely had a surprisingly good season under Brent Pry as well, a winning record. Tulane, they lost their head coach, Willie Fritz. He's on to another team. They lost their star quarterback. The transfer portal, the way coaches get hired, I think a lot of this needs to change because it's really hindering a lot of teams coming into the bowl games. The expanded playoffs, I think, will fix some of this issue, but it's still a major issue how the offseason works in college football. Just a lot of chaos and a lot of things moving around. This time, Tulane was the team that got hurt by that. And Virginia Tech had a huge home crowd practically. I mean, a whole lot of people show up for that game. Massive showing. And the Hokies were able to get a very impressive win.
Yeah, that was a really interesting point you brought up, how that expanded playoff might change things around, just transfer portal wise, because you see guys like from Florida State, guys are either leaving or they're declaring for a draft, and whenever you look at Bama and Michigan, Washington and Texas, I mean, really nobody's moving around. Of course, Malik Murphy out of Texas moved around, but I mean, but he's a backup. Unless Ewers got hurt, I mean, we weren't really going to see him at all in the playoffs. So, I mean, the only ones that are moving are ones that kind of have to move or are like in favor to move. So, I mean, that expanded playoffs really going to bring up, I think, greater competition and hold guys down a lot more. So, I think that's a really good point that you brought up. Let's see, we got two other bowl games starting tonight. One at 8:00, and that's going to be Louisville USC. A little off year for USC. Louisville, I mean, made the ACC title game, had a really good showing. Also tonight we have number 20 Oklahoma State and Texas A&M at the Texas Bowl. Two ranked teams playing again tonight. So I mean, we've still got some action here. Do you think there's an upset brewing in either of those?
I could see an upset with the USC Louisville game for sure, because we know Caleb Williams is not going to start at quarterback. They're going to end up starting Miller Moss, but he's got some talent, and Lincoln Riley knows how to script up a really good offense. It's just that elite USC offense versus that elite Louisville defense. Going to be a lot of fun to watch. It also will see how many mistakes Louisville's offense makes. If they play a pretty clean game, they should be able to win this one. And that other bowl game in the Texas Bowl, one big reason to watch that, Ollie Gordon, one of the best running backs, actually the best running back in the entire country, is going to play because he's only a sophomore. He has the most scrimmage yards in the entire country and is second in rushing yards, just barely, though he's probably going to move back into first place with his performance against Texas A&M tonight. He is one of the best players in the country, so that's one reason to watch that game between the Aggies and the Cowboys. Of course, Texas A&M dealing with a lot of movement as well. I mean, that number one ranked recruiting class that they had a couple years ago, it's practically all gone. I mean, we know Walter Nolan's now at Ole Miss now, and pretty much all those guys that and elite
America is at Ole
five-star.
Miss.
Pretty much. I mean, Ole Miss just got the whole transfer portal going. It's kind of concerning. The Rebels might be a pretty good team in the near future still, but that amazing class A&M had, they did literally nothing with it, and now it's backfired. It's come back to haunt them. So, but if I had to pick the more likely upset, I'd probably say USC over Louisville, but I see both of the ranked teams winning those ones.
So, sorry, I was gonna say I could see an upset for either one of these. Honestly, like Texas and Oklahoma State. I mean, sorry, Texas A&M and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has had their fair share of like screw ups this season. Like they've had, for the most part, it's been it's been pretty impressive how they were able to come up throughout the season and get some good wins in. But I definitely could see this one going in Texas A&M's favor as well if they play well. Same thing with Louisville and USC. I mean, at the end of the day, it's USC. I mean, they're still they haven't had the season they wanted, but I still could see that happening. Sorry, Jace,
No,
you're
you're
about to say
fine.
something.
No, I was literally just about to ask you what you thought of these games tonight. So hit it right on the head.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I've been shaken up since I got kicked out of the stream. Oh, want to talk New Year's 6 games? We might as well. It's almost that time. Let's see. I'll ask this. I guess we'll just start with Georgia and Florida State. New Year's 6 game. Obviously, two teams that were, both feel they were cheated out of the playoffs in their cases. This game it's not the playoffs, but it's still very intriguing to me just because of, like I said, the two teams that feel they were left out. How do we honestly see Florida State still with the backup QB, right? But who has done good, Jordan Travis, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Competing with Georgia realistically in this game.
I don't think it's really going to be that great of a match on New Year, or no, that's going to be December 30th on that Saturday. But because like you said, Jordan Travis is out. Earlier, Keon Coleman announced that he's going to be going to the draft, so I don't think he's going to be participating. That's another interesting one. I saw the line last week was at like 13.5 in favor of Georgia. It has jumped up to 19, and I have a feeling it could be worse than that. I mean, maybe close to 30-point difference here. I mean, if you just looked at the body of work that Georgia put together, despite the hiccup in the SEC title game that kept them out of it, I mean, it was a pretty hefty work that they did put in. And like Florida State, I mean, they were skating by some teams, and I think that's just going to keep rolling over, and I think Georgia's going to steamroll them personally.
I'm starting to worry that Georgia's going to steamroll them as well, which is unfortunate because if Florida State has their whole team, as Jace just said, who knows? I think the Seminoles could be the best team in the country. However, they don't, and that's the sad reality. And right now, if you look at it, they have not just only Keon Coleman opting out, Johnny Wilson's also opted out. Trey Benson, their star running back, is opted out. Jared Verse could be a top 5 pick, an edge rusher. He's opted out. And in total, they have more than 20 opt-outs or transfers. That's pretty insane. I've never seen that high of a number for any team. And, of course, Georgia will be missing some key players, too. Javon Dumas-Johnson, he's transferring out. He's moving on. Brock Bowers, probably going to opt out. I haven't seen anything yet, but probably going to opt out. But still, the number's not even going to be anywhere close to what Florida State's going to lose. And even if they had those guys, they would still be the underdog. So they're going to get embarrassed here, but it's really not a good representation of how their team has been. So I feel sorry for them because Georgia's going to kill them, but that's not going to really be the accurate showcase of how good this team was all season, how good of a coach Mike Norvell is. But that's kind of the sad reality of it. I hope it's close, but I worry. I think it is going to be a blowout.
Yeah, Georgia not expected to have many opt-outs. Obviously, Brock Bowers would be a big loss, but at the end of the day, they still have a loaded, absolutely, they it's not going to be me. Just just Brock Bowers wouldn't stop them out, and not in my opinion.
All right, I think we lost Chloe again. We're gonna go ahead and take our first break of the evening. We'll be back with some college hoops talk coming up here right next on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock receives support from Fieldhouse Social. Sports games paired with a cold beer is in reach in University Commons. Fieldhouse Social offers a diverse menu of tavern foods such as pulled pork nachos, the Fieldhouse Cobb salad, and the Applewood smoked chicken wings. Kick back and relax in the lounge. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. AllVols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, Go Vols basketball! The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, Go Ice Bears!
The Rock thanks Cool Beans, 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the campus headquarters for food, brews, pool, shot starts, sports, and more fun. Tuesday night is team trivia night, and Thursday nights are for bingo. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page for more info.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. AllVols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, Go Lady Vols!
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. The 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. AllVols.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Base Vols good luck on the diamond this season.
Welcome back in to Rock Solid Sports. It is Wednesday night. Sorry for those technical difficulties there. Hopefully we are back for good now. And by we, I mean myself. But I am at Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way, our sponsor for tonight. We thank them so much for their help and support. And it is trivia night. We got a game of trivia going on as per usual. And yeah, definitely a great place to be. Great environment. They got the Mayo Bowl going on behind us, which I will of course be tuned into. And yeah, they have pretty much everything you could ever ask for, including basketball. They will be showing Vols basketball all season. And the Tennessee men have went up to be ranked number 6 in the nation now. They were number 8 before, but they moved up 2 spots. So this is pretty exciting. Obviously they beat Tarleton State, and then they got Norfolk State on this Tuesday, and then it's straight into SEC play. Do we feel that the Vols are ranked too high, too low, or just right?
I think it could go any way. I mean, I don't think we're too low in any capacity. I think if it were to swing anyway, it would be too high, only because we've notched 3 losses, granted all against really, really good teams. But I mean, we really, besides that, I mean, we've played Wisconsin, we've played Illinois, and beyond that, we don't really have any of those like powerhouse really wins. I don't think we have besides the first game of the year, I don't think we really have a win by much more than 20 points at all. So, I mean, in some of the games that we're supposed to be dominating, we really aren't doing that. It's kind of frustrating in that department, but I mean, 20-point wins are 20-point wins. So that's a good thing. I don't think that we are better than any of the teams in front of us, maybe a couple teams behind us. That's why I'm really intrigued by our matchups with Kentucky coming up within the coming months.
Yeah, absolutely. And what Jace just pointed out, all of our losses are to great teams. So I think that's what's separating us from some other teams that have some bad losses. At this point in the season, a lot of teams have played, a lot of top tier teams have already lost to an unranked team, or at least one team where it's like, okay, how did you possibly lose that game? That isn't Tennessee. Tennessee's 3 losses are again against great teams. And we do have that one marquee win against Illinois. Now, coming up in SEC play, the conference is really, really good this year. I think the SEC continues to move in a really good direction in basketball. Ole Miss, the conference opener on January 6th, that is going to be really fascinating because the Rebels, with head coach Chris Beard, who's had a lot of success with Texas and Texas Tech, has got the Rebels in the top 25. They're a really good team out of nowhere. I mean, I can't even name a single player on that team, but they're doing really good. They've had kind of a light schedule, though, but they've played really, really well. And undefeated is undefeated. No matter what way you slice, it's really hard to keep winning in college basketball. So that is going to be a tough test, and I'm excited to see how Tennessee does against them. Obviously, Jace mentioned Kentucky. They'll play Kentucky twice, including hosting the Wildcats in the season finale, which is going to be absolutely hype. I mean, everybody's going to turn up for that one. But there's going to be a lot of great games in the SEC this season. It's going to be a tough league. So I think the team is absolutely ready for it. They were the preseason SEC favorites to win the SEC championship. We'll see. I can see the team doing it this time.
I don't really know if I agree with what you said, Devin, about that the SEC is really competitive this year. I think the SEC, I don't want to say has fallen off, but I haven't really seen anything from the SEC as far as the conferences in basketball that make me think that they're like super great. I mean, there's Ole Miss, which is really the only one on this schedule for all the January games that I think will be a difficult one. I could see, this is kind of a hot take, but I could see Mississippi State potentially upsetting Tennessee just because I don't know. My intuition, something about it. I'll bring it up every time. But no, Mississippi State hasn't upset Tennessee since 2020, I think, but there's still that possibility. But I don't know. I don't think the SEC is super competitive this year. I think Tennessee is. I think Ole Miss is, and of course Kentucky is as well. But we'll see. Maybe there's more teams that will come up with this. But yeah, Ole Miss definitely going to be a challenging one. They're undefeated. They haven't played anyone too impressive, but I definitely agree with your all's comments. That the Vol, I think the Vols at number 6 is sitting around just right. I thought number 8 was good too, but it is one of those things where you have to look at it and see, Tennessee has lost 3 games, but they're 2 the best teams in the country. They're sitting at number 6. They've won every game they were supposed to. So Tennessee's already played the best early in the season, and it'll be intriguing to see if they meet again with those best teams in March Madness at the end of the season. So I'm just thinking the Vols can only get better. It'll be exciting. Hopefully nobody gets hurt, no injuries, but I mean, at the end of the day, this team, everyone really contributes. And I think this is one of the first Vols basketball teams in the past few years where there's not, some guy that never plays that you don't really know his name unless we're beating the crap out of somebody. This team is different. Like, everyone who's healthy truly does contribute. I think that's different. I think it's awesome. And we've seen that, Dalton Connect hasn't had his best games the past few weeks, but other players, Josiah Jordan James and even Vescovy, are able to step up. So that's my 2 cents on the SEC and SEC play for men's basketball coming up.
Yeah, I think one thing that, of course, like Devin said, I mean, we're preseason picks to be SEC champs. One thing that I've noticed out of this squad over the last couple years, I mean, we're really just missing that really like separate yourself dominant big man in the post. I mean, Jonas Adu has been doing great. We've seen John Fulkerson down there. He's not really like the biggest of bigs, but I mean, he did his job pretty decently. Eurosh the last few years has done okay, but I mean, you see guys like Zach Edey, Armando Baycott, Hunter Dickerson, like those guys are the reasons that those teams are so good. I mean, those teams flow through those guys, which creates opportunities for guys outside. Now, I mean, we have guys like Vescovy that are going to take it to the rack and kick it out and make a lot of outside shot opportunities. But I mean, we just need somebody to step up on the interior and really separate from the rest of the crowd in the SEC big men. And I think that's when we're really going to start seeing some better results for these squads. And do I think this team can do it in the SEC tournament wise? Absolutely. I think we're at least easily a top 2, if not number 1 team in the conference for a reason. But we really haven't seen that separation in the big men for quite some time under Coach Barnes.
Yeah, and that you're right. You're absolutely right, Jace, because that is definitely an X factor for the team. But as you mentioned, just like all those great big men you just said, can you think of any big men like that playing in the SEC right now this season?
No,
Not
absolutely.
really, not really. So fortunately for Tennessee in the SEC, that isn't going to be a problem. But you're right. When it comes to March Madness, we bump into one of those teams. We bump into Purdue again, bump into Kansas. Might be a little tricky, but again, we'll have to worry about that when we get to that at that point. I will say about the SEC as a league this season, yes, right now there is not a whole lot of ranked teams, but there's a lot of SEC teams that I feel like are just outside being ranked in the top 25. Auburn is a good example of a team that comes to mind like that. Texas A&M, another good example of a veteran team that's really, really good. But, there are some teams really struggling, like Vanderbilt, for example. They're not having a good season. Although they were close against Memphis. They were close, but not quite good enough. So it's certainly kind of an up and down league, but there are some teams in the middle that I think are really, really good that Tennessee should watch out for. Mississippi State, as Chloe mentioned earlier, that's another good team that's not ranked, but they do have some good talent on that team. Overall, it's a very deep conference. I'm very excited about it, and I think it's going to be a really fun league to watch this season.
Absolutely. And speaking of other things on Devin, I know you put this on the dock. Florida Atlantic is kind of having a season again. They're ranked. They're now number 7, so a little bit below Tennessee, but they upset Arizona on Christmas Eve. 96-95. The game went into overtime. So the Owls, we might have to see them again this year. I don't know. They'll probably come up again.
Hey, they're firing on all cylinders. I swear. I mean, like you go and beat. I don't care where it's at. I don't even think it was at Arizona. I think it was like a neutral site game, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean,
it was like, I think it was, but I think it was like in Phoenix. I mean, it was close enough. It was an Arizona home game.
Maybe
it was in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Oh, Vegas. So, okay, still.
It kind of meets in the middle, and not really meets in the middle, but kind of like whenever we beat Gonzaga in like 2018, kind of like one of those tournaments. It doesn't matter where you go and play. I mean, if you play the number 1 team or like a top 3 team, it's going to be hard anywhere you play them. And to go out and put up 96 points, granted in double overtime, but 96 points against a team like Arizona and being able to pull out a win is huge. That team, Final Four run stomped us out pretty good in the Sweet 16. I think this team has a chance to, make another deep run. Do I know how long this squad is going to continue to do that? I mean, I know their coach signed like a 10-year deal or something. So he's going to be there for a minute unless he gets like a more lucrative offer. But I mean, this might be one of those like cases, kind of like that Loyola Chicago squad, like for the past few years. It's one of those like not I guess like kind of group of 5 mid-major type deals where schools just kind of get really good and hang around for a few years.
Yeah, and I think FAU is trying to become like Gonzaga, who has been able to kind of hang around for the last 2 decades, or like Houston, who now the Houston Cougars are in the Big 12, but before that they were in a mid-major conference. And wow, the Big 12 is going to be really exciting with them in that league this season as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. But that game between FAU and Arizona, oh my goodness, that was the game of the year right there. Double overtime. John L. Davis scored 35 points. He is an absolute superstar. On the other side, you got Caleb Love and Umar Ballo. That was just an elite game. One of the best and craziest games of the year. I sadly actually missed it. I was too busy paying attention to the bowl games. And then I go, oh, there's a basketball game going on, but it was already over. And I saw the highlights. I'm like, wow, this was literally the game of the year. One of the best games in the regular season just ever. So if you missed it like I did, look up the highlights. You won't regret it, I promise. So it's really, really. But I love that there's so much balance in college basketball and in the women's game too. The women's college basketball seems like there's a lot more parity this time around. South Carolina's dominating, of course, but outside of that, there seems like there's a lot of good teams that could make a run this year. So both March Madnesses are going to be really exciting once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, we'll talk more about women's basketball. They're about to start conference play here in a little bit too with the new year. But I want to talk about NFL. I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about all the games that happen over Christmas weekend. Not all of them, but to touch base on the playoff picture and everything like that. So we're going to take a short break. We will be right back. Stay tuned. You're listening to Rock Solid Sports on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social is an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Allballs.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. Allvols.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, "Go Lady Vols."
Smoke on Rocky Top, ain't no telephone bill.
The Rock thanks Cool Beans 1817 Lake Avenue, 1 block south of the Strip, for sponsoring and hosting the Monday night Rock Solid Sports broadcast at 7 p.m. Cool Beans is the pre- and post-game location for UT football and Knoxville's home for the NFL Sunday Ticket, Titans on the big screen, and more. Rock Solid Sports kicks off Monday Night Football with the shows live from 7 to 8 p.m. at Cool Beans. Cool Beans is 21 and over after 9 p.m. with a full and late night menu. CoolBeansBar.com or their Facebook page.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. Allvols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, "Go Vols basketball." The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears!
Still Snoop Dogg and D.I. Guess who's back?
Welcome back into Rock Solid Sports. It's Wednesday night. I'm Chloe down at Fieldhouse Social, our sponsor for tonight, 2525 University Commons Way. We got trivia going on, and of course, we have the Duke Mayo Bowl on the big screen. West Virginia is still ahead 17-10 over North Carolina in that game. And we're going to talk not college football, but some NFL. We got Jace on here. We got Devin on here. Let's jump right into it. The playoff picture in the AFC, Ravens and Dolphins have clinched a playoff spot, and in the NFC, 49ers, Eagles, Lions, and Cowboys have all clinched a spot. In the AFC, the Patriots, the Chargers, my Tennessee Titans, and the Jets are officially eliminated. And then the NFC, the Panthers, Cardinals, Commanders, and Giants are eliminated. The Chiefs still in the hunt after losing on Christmas Day to the Raiders. I did not see that coming. Let's see. There's obviously a lot to unpack here. You guys, any games from over the weekend that are still on your mind? Devin, I know this was kind of last week, but how about that crazy Seahawks win last week as well over the Eagles?
Yeah, that was incredible. And of course, now the Seahawks have a win over the Titans as well. I was worried the Tennessee was going to ruin Seattle's hopes.
Tennessee
I'm like,
was going to
okay.
find a way to lose. I knew it. I was watching that Christmas Eve, and I was like, I don't need to watch the rest of it. Tennessee's ahead. They're still going to lose. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, but they gave a good fight. That was a really close one. 20-17 victory for the Seahawks there. And now the Minnesota Vikings have lost to the Detroit Lions as well. So now the Seahawks, they have a path to get to the playoffs. This weekend, they've got a huge matchup with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are also 8-7. Both teams 8-7 in Seattle. Whoever wins that has a chance to go to the playoffs. Whoever loses, I think they're done for the season. So huge matchup there. There's so many games this upcoming weekend that have playoff implications, including the Tennessee Titans game. The Titans could ruin the season for the Houston Texans. If we take a look at the AFC South, which is, not the greatest division, as we can see based on the standings here, we got the Texans, the Jags, and the Colts, all 8-7. I can't believe the Colts are having this decent of a season, but in any case, that's besides the point. All of them are mediocre. All of them are 8-7, but one of them has to win that division. And the NFC South is same thing. Looks like the Buccaneers will probably win the division, but man, there's so many huge games on the line here, and these regular season games from this past week have definitely made the playoff picture look very, very interesting. And one key thing to look at is over in the NFC side, let's just take a look here. The Dallas Cowboys have been super dominant at home this season, but have really struggled on the road. So whoever wins that NFC East title between the Eagles and the Cowboys, that is really going to make a huge difference as to who can get home field advantage. Because if the Cowboys get it, they might end up making a deep run, maybe even getting to the Super Bowl. But if they don't get it, they might be out in the first round. So that's just an interesting one to look at. To me, I think the MVP situation has really taken shape. I think Lamar Jackson has got it. I think he's going to win his second league MVP because right now the only other two guys, there's only three guys I would be willing to vote for league MVP right now. And only one of them is a quarterback. So, and it's basically a quarterback award. But the other two guys I would pick would be Tyreek Hill and Christian McCaffrey. But we all know they're going to give it to a quarterback probably. So Lamar has probably got that locked up. And the Ravens, I think you can't say, I think they're definitely the best team in the league right now, and they've proven that.
Yeah, and bringing up the MVP award, I mean, for a decent chunk there, Brock Purdy, or for like the last couple weeks, Brock Purdy was like front runner for it, even having like at some point over the weekend, like minus 240 odds to win it if somebody was to put money down on it. And I mean, he threw 4 interceptions against the Ravens team at home, lost big 33-19. And like you said, Lamar Jackson kind of set himself apart in that crowd. Like you said, it's pretty much has turned into a quarterback of the year award. And it'll probably stay that way, even though, I mean, if we would have been able to see a 2,000-yard season from Tyreek Hill, I think it could have swung that way. I don't think it will, but that dream is kind of dead and gone. McCaffrey's having another bananas year, so I'd love to see him get it, but I don't think he will. I think he'll definitely swing that offensive player of the year for sure. But, another game, or like that was brought up earlier, that Raiders-Chiefs game was just so weird. Those back-to-back plays where we saw the Raiders defense take it to the house, whether it be on a fumble or that long pick six where I think it was Jack Jones, tried to hand the ball to a kid, and some dude behind the kid tried to reach over him, and he snatched it back away. I mean, of course, media or people are going to take that the wrong way, but I mean, it's an interesting debate. I mean, what are the Chiefs just really can't separate themselves? They're somehow keeping.
The Chiefs have had a lot of drama this year.
Yeah,
a lot of drama.
And it's kind of like it's like they're toying with the Broncos almost, because the Broncos are still somehow in contention with that, and I think they still hold the tiebreaker over the Chiefs, which is still crazy. So I mean, there's still a chance for the Broncos to get into the playoffs. Granted, do I think they do? Absolutely not. But I mean, this Chiefs team, they aren't going to be hosting the whole way through the playoffs unless something crazy happens like a couple years ago where the Titans are the 1 seed and they lose to the Bengals, and then everything goes crazy after that. So I mean, this Chiefs team, it really doesn't have like a crazy identity. I mean, that offense can be so good when it runs, but man, when it doesn't run at all.
Yeah, and I really think they're losing it here. I mean, now do I think they're going to lose the division? No. I think they got the division locked up because, fortunately for them, the Broncos, as you just mentioned, the Broncos lost to the Patriots. Russell Wilson has gotten benched. So that's a disaster. The Raiders, they're not going to win out their last 2 games. I just don't see it. They're way too inconsistent. So the Chiefs, I think they at least get one more win out of these last 2 and officially lock up the division. But yeah, it's going to be tough for them. And there was so much drama in that game. Travis Kelce took his helmet off and smashed it on the ground when he wasn't put in for a play. That was a play that worked, but he was just mad he wasn't put in for that play, and it was a different tight end. And Mahomes practically holding back tears after they lost that game. You could see he's extremely frustrated. I think he's done a good job, but his receivers have not. The team is they're just losing it. I think they're losing confidence. I think they will get into the playoffs. I think they might win in the first round, but I just don't think this is their year. I think they've really lost a handle on this thing, and I think the Dolphins are really still going to end up being a team that can make some noise at the end, but we'll see.
It is weird. It has been weird watching the Chiefs fall apart, I guess. I mean, right, they lost like very beginning of the season to the Lions. And when that happened, I didn't think, oh man, the Chiefs are really bad. I thought, oh man, the Lions are really good. And then now the Chiefs, and then like the beginning, first part of the season, whatever, it's expected. But then, I mean, the last few games, excluding the Patriots, it's just been kind of weird for sure. Something that I thought was weird, the Bills, I think that was when we did our locks on Friday, I think I did the Bills over the Chargers. The Bills and the Chargers was a oddly close game. They're right until the very last few seconds. Bills won by 2 points. So the Bills is another team still in the hunt, of course, to be in the playoffs, but that's another team that intrigues me from time to time for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're just kind of confusing this year too. I mean, we've seen them play good against like good teams. Like, I mean, they've beat Miami, they've beat Dallas, both at home, of course. But I mean, they played really well in those 2 matchups. And we've also seen them play bad. I mean, they've lost to the Jets. I mean, Jets team that they've been kind of up and down. They'll have like sparks of just being like, oh man, this team, might can make a playoff push late in the year. And of course it's too late for that now. So, I mean, you take that and then you mix it with dominating these great teams. And it's just kind of like what are we going to see when it comes playoff time? I mean, I think they've started to hit their stride a little bit, but they kind of had a hiccup this past week against the Chargers, a Chargers team that they should have whooped really bad because, of course, there's no Justin Herbert, and you have Easton Stick out there who's not the best by any means or anything. So, I mean, that should have been a shellacking, and it wasn't. So, I mean, it's still kind of on the table, like what kind of Bills team, if they make the playoffs, are we going to see trot out there? Are we going to see the ones that have beat the Cowboys, a good team, have beat the Dolphins, a good team, or are we going to see the ones losing to the Jets? And didn't they lose to the Patriots too?
Yeah, and I think they also lost to the Broncos, I believe. There's a
crazy.
They've definitely had a very weird season. Again, the Buffalo Bills, they were a very popular Super Bowl champion pick before the season began. Almost everybody, trying to be cool, picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. And, they look like a good team, but, Josh Allen has been very inconsistent this season. You never know which Josh Allen is going to show up. They had an insane amount of turnovers for a long time. But now they're running the football more with James Cook. He's kind of heated up. So they've got a good squad. I think they're still a team that can get into the wild card spot and potentially go all the way to the Super Bowl. There's a lot of teams, I think, that can do that, though. So it's going to be a crowded field. Be interesting to see who comes out on top in that.
Definitely. Well, for Thursday tomorrow night, we do have the Jets, which are not going to be in the playoffs, but the Browns are still in the playoff picture, in the hunt. They're 10-5. Who are we picking for this one? I'll start us off. The Browns. I think they got it, and I think with this win, I think they got this Thursday night game for sure. Don't really have any confidence in the Jets, although sometimes they prove me wrong, and unfortunately, it's usually when they play the Titans, and I pick the Titans to win. What about you guys?
The return of Joe Flacco has been nothing short of extraordinary. I'm going to roll with the Browns here. I think they lock up a playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken, after this one. They're already a 10-win team. I think they're in anyways. I think they beat the Jets at home. Hey, Browns making a playoff push. We'll see.
Yeah, the Browns have an incredibly talented defense. I think that's what's going to win them the game. And Joe Flacco, I don't think he plays super amazing in this game. Actually, I think he ends up playing pretty average, but I don't think he makes a whole lot of mistakes. That's going to be key for this one. Doesn't turn the ball over. The Browns force a lot of turnovers on their side, and they end up coming out with the victory. And they're a team that, strangely enough, they could go all the way. That would be really, really crazy to see the Browns go to the Super Bowl. That'd be almost like unheard of. I think the world would end if that happened, really. So we'll have to see. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to the playoffs, though. That's for sure.
Definitely. All super interesting. I think the way I see it, we're all going to Orlando this weekend. So we won't be here, but Rock Solid Sports will be back on Friday. From all of us, go Vols. And we'll see you next week at some point. We got Allie on Friday and some other guys as well. Definitely stay tuned. The Alternative is up next. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3, The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Wasting another night on planning my